Chapter 9. I shouldn't be here, I thought, and yet there I was, standing in my hoodie just inside the entrance of the New York Athletic Club. It was an impressive room, marble floors, and ornate wood paneling, and a row of gorgeous chandeliers that made you feel like you stepped back in time. I've been standing there invisible for 5 minutes, learning the pattern of the doorman's walk back and forth across the lobby and trying to make a decision about what to do. I should just get out of here, I told myself. This is crazy. But instead, I waited until the flood of guys going in and out of the club slowed to more of a trickle, and I could slip into an elevator alone. From there, it wasn't too hard to get into the athletic part of the building. I kept telling myself that I wasn't going to take a peek at the pool. I wanted to see what it looked like in real life. And what was so awesome about this particular pool that it made Ethan want to go back there in his subconscious mind. I mean, he dreamed about this pool constantly. I just get a look, see for myself, and then I go. In the empty woman's locker room, as I pulled back my hood and became visible again, my heart started slamming into my ribs. I knew Boz was lost his freaking mind if he saw me here on Dave's monitors. But there was no cameras in the athletic areas of the club, not the locker rooms or the pool. I took a deep breath and let it out slowly. I couldn't remember the last time I'd been to a swimming pool, not since I've been dead anyway. On the way out, I stopped and surveyed myself in the long wall of locker room mirrors. I was kind of a mess, wearing the hoodie with black skinny jeans and cheap black and white checkered canvas flats, minimal makeup, a bit of concealer and mascara. My eyelids were slightly puffy. I frowned at the small pimple below my mouth. Every single morning, I had to cover up the same tiny little zit that I'd had when I died. Since my body reset itself every day, I was stuck with a perpetual pimple for the rest of eternity. An unfair thing to do to a teenage girl, if you ask me. And you could stand to lose 5 pounds, said the inner Yvonne, even though that thought be impossible. But your hair looks amazing. Fortunately, just before I died, I had a Brazilian blowout, so my hair was a shiny, just-colored golden blonde that fell almost to my waist. It didn't look pretty good, even loose and unstyled and a bit tangled. But how I looked didn't matter anyway, since I was just going to pop in there and check out the pool. In and out, that's all, no big deal. The room was smaller in real life. It had been in Ethan's dream. The floor was covered with thousands of tiny white and blue porcelain tiles, and occasionally they spelled out "no diving" along the edges of the water. The walls were also laid with tile, dark blue, near the floor, and then the pattern getting lighter and more sporadic as they approached the ceiling, which was white and high and arching, with chandeliers every few feet to light the room at night. Along one wall were 4 hazy 8-paned windows. A set of lounge chairs with navel cushions lined up against the other wall. There was a banner of red and white triangles across the pool, the red ones printed with a winged foot, which apparently was the logo for the NYAC. The water cast ripples of light onto the walls, and the air was heavy with the smell of chlorine. So there, I seen it. I should go. I should have gone right then, in and out just like I planned, but that's when I also saw Ethan. He was swimming in lane 3. Of course he was. From the moment I realized that I was standing across the street from the club, Ethan's club, I'd known I would go in, and that somehow I'd find him there. I didn't let myself think about the rules I was breaking. Approaching Ethan Winters III, Scrooge, 173, in real life. I told myself I was only there for the pool, but I wasn't fooling anyone, least of all myself. I made my way carefully along the edge of the pool, picked an empty chaise at the far side, and sat down. There was an abandoned copy of the New York Times on the seat next to me, and I stole it. I unfolded the newspaper across my lap and pretended to read. "What are you doing?" said a warning voice in my head. This wasn't Yvonne. It sounded suspiciously like Boz. "I want to see Ethan," I replied. When I sifted his memories, I never really got a good look at him after all. It was dark in his bedroom. The surveillance photos and videos that circulated around the office weren't the best quality. They couldn't do him justice. I just wanted to see this guy in real life. I sit for a few minutes and watch him, and then I go. But that wasn't the real reason I come in here. Deep down, I knew that too. It's why I hadn't worn the hoodie. Even though I never actually met him, Ethan was the person I felt closest to. I understood him, what he was going through, what he would go through. Maybe I just wanted to be around another person for a while, so I wouldn't feel so terribly alone. Hey, I haven't seen you in here before. Some guy put his foot up to the chase next to mine and leaned toward me, dripping pool water on my pants. Ugh. The pool obviously wasn't nice and deserted the way it'd been in Ethan's dream. It was populated with men. Men with hairy chests and men wearing bathing caps and goggles and men who shouldn't be wearing Speedos but were. Gross. I guess that this one was over the age of 30. Double gross. I said, I haven't seen you here before. The dripping guy said, what's your name? My name is none of your business. I tried to focus on my fake reading. Don't be like that, said the guy. I'm just trying to make conversation. I lowered the newspaper. He had slick, dark hair with a farmer's tan, but it was easy to see that he thought he was a 10 while he was actually more of a 7. And he was used to women being impressed by him, the kind of guy with a $10,000 wristwatch. Do you have a good lawyer? I asked him. His cocky grin disappeared. What? I'm 17, I said loudly. So I'll ask again. Do you have a good lawyer? Because you're going to need one if you get involved with me. He took off. I glanced toward the pool. All I saw in lane 3 was a dark head bobbed in the water. I lifted the newspaper again and started to read a fascinating article about Hollywood's new feminist treatment of women in the movies, using a quote from Gideon's Chase, no less. It was like my dad was following me around. Hello, sweet thing, another guy. I like your shoes. Not interested, I said, and seriously, my shoes were awful. Go swim or something. He muttered something that rhymed with the word witch and stalked off. I started to go back to my reading, but then I realized something very important. Ethan wasn't in the pool. Wait, where was he? I put down the newspaper and sat up. I didn't have to look far because he was basically standing right beside me, drying himself off with a red towel that had been folded up on the chair next to mine. I'd been sitting next to his stuff the entire time. He didn't say anything. He didn't look at me. He gathered his things and started off for the locker room. That's when I lost my brain entirely. Wait, I called. He stopped, turned back. The red towel was slung around his shoulders, but otherwise his chest was bare, his hair wet and glistening. I blinked up at him. Speak, Holly, I thought. Any time now. Can I ask you a question? I asked. He raised an eyebrow. Yes. What's a guy like you doing in here surrounded by these creepy old men? Yes, I was stupid. I got this one chance to talk to Ethan, and the best I could come up with was a version of the old, what's a girl like you doing in a place like this? But the corner of his mouth turned up. I could ask you the same. A slow panic was starting to build in me that pretty soon would be a fast panic. I was talking to the Scrooge. Why was I talking to the Scrooge? And more important, at least for the time being, what was I planning to say to him? Exactly, I said. Exactly? You and I don't belong here, I said. I have to be somewhere else, I realized. I couldn't be Holly Chase because Holly Chase was Havisham, and Havisham was the ghost of Christmas past, and Ethan was going to have a pretty intense date with the ghost of Christmas past for a few hours in late December. I had to be someone else, someone who might actually be here sitting by the pool for a good reason. My mind raced. I'm waiting for my dad, I said, who keeps insisting on dragging me to this stupid club while he drinks brandy with his business partners. I'm here under protest. Okay, That hadn't been a terrible explanation. It was pretty good, actually. I quickly thought of a scenario in which I was the daughter of some high-powered business exec. What's your excuse? The side of my mouth hissed up again. What? I asked. I'm just half afraid to talk to you, he said, after seeing how you dispatched those guys who came up to you earlier. So, he had been watching me. I tilted my head back to look at his face, fighting a smile. His eyes were dark gray today, like distant storm clouds. God, he was hot. And now we were obviously going to have an entire conversation. If I was being someone else, I could do that. I was never going to see him like this again, obviously. Nobody else would ever have to know. Why not have some fun with it? Those guys was too old for me, I said. Are you too old for me? I'm 17. Then you may stay, I pronounced, for now. He hesitated, but then he said, I'm honored, and slid into the chair next to me. So are you planning on actually swimming while you're here at the pool? I shrugged. Never learned how. Ha! This wasn't even remotely true. When I was alive, I've never lived in a house that didn't have a pool. My dad used to call me his little fish. But again, at this moment, I wasn't Holly. It was kind of nice being not Holly, freeing. So you don't swim, but you wanted to sit by the pool, indoors, with the creepy old men. It's the last place my dad would think to look for me. Ah, so you've got daddy issues. I have boredom issues, I smiled. But now you're going to entertain me. Oh, I am? He said. How? You're going to pretend to be my boyfriend, I said casually. Even as the sentence came out of my mouth, I couldn't believe I said it. This not Holly girl was kind of fearless. He gave me an incredulous look. And why would I do that? To keep all these creepy old guys off me, of course. It's the only gentlemanly thing to do here. It was so easy, I was finding out, to turn on that part of myself who remembered how to handle boys. I hadn't had a real conversation with a real live non-Project Scrooge related boy in 5 years. You'd think I'd be rusty, but it was like riding a bike. I could still flirt. It was quiet for a moment while Ethan thought about this. I waited. All right, he said finally. I'm your boyfriend. He leaned back in his chair and looked around us. The pool area was almost empty. No real threat of creepy old guys, obviously. He reached for my hand. What are you doing? I asked. I'm being your boyfriend, sweet thing. His warm fingers enclosed mine. I got an image from his past, something with a little girl wearing a tiara. I pushed it quickly out of my consciousness. The last thing I needed right now was to space out because I was honoring in on his past, which I already pretty much knew. Hot lips, I tried out. Baby, snookums, sweetie, sugar bum. He exhaled in a breathy laugh. Then we sat there for what felt like hours, but was probably more like 20 minutes, trading pet names, holding hands. It was a familiar feeling, holding his hand, but it was also completely new. At one point, I put my hand on his face like I was his adoring girlfriend, and he kissed my palm just like that. I could have passed out. Seriously, it was so hot. So, he said after a while, are you going to tell me your name? It seems weird that I don't even know my girlfriend's name. I stopped myself in the nick of time. I couldn't give him my real name. What if he Googled me? What? He said. The suspense is killing me. I was in way over my head. I sat up. Do you know what time it is? He smirked and pointed at the huge clock on the wall almost directly behind us. It was nearly 6. Dinner time, I said. No wonder my stomach is rumbling. We could have dinner in the club, Ethan suggested. The chef here is one of the best in the city. Oh my God, he was asking me out. I would have said yes. I wanted to. God, I wanted to, for both the food and the company. But then it would have become a real date. The real date would have been in the real dining room, which had Dave's cameras watching over it. And Dave's team would have been expecting Ethan to leave soon. If I kept him much longer, they'd wonder. I shook my head. My dad would be ready by now. I should go. Wait, Ethan said. Let me get your number at least. I don't have a phone. His eyes narrowed. You don't have a phone? Why don't I believe that? I'm totally unplugged, I said. My dad confiscated my phone. I'm being punished. His frown disappeared, replaced by a curious smile. That's too bad. Most girls I know would wither and die without their phones. How will I get in touch with you then? Oh, you want to get in touch with me, do you? I laughed nervously. How about this? I'll find you again. You're a regular around here, right? Have you seen me here before? I thought you looked familiar, he said. Maybe I've seen you in passing. I'll be here tomorrow night, he said. You can find me then. I have plans tomorrow night. This was true. I had to work from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m., which incidentally involved me sneaking into Ethan's bedroom around midnight and trying to read his mind. How crazy was that? It's kind of hard for me to get here on weekdays. I have stuff, school-related stuff, So how about this? When my dad brings me back here again some weekend, which he'll do because that's what he always does, I'll look for you. Okay, he agreed reluctantly. I could tell he didn't love this plan. You're seriously not even going to tell me your name? I leaned in and kissed his cheek. Bye, baby. Sweet thing, he murmured. God, I was crazy. I was reckless. I was done. But I was smiling as I walked away. Okay, everyone. It seems like we have reached the ending of chapter 9. So join me again for chapter 10. And let's see how this goes. Because I want to know if they going to find out that Holly then snuck in here and became a real person and talked to Eden. This is getting good. Y'all come back. See you later.